My drive, that's my hunger I will always have. And at this point right now, the years and the time and the effort and the knowledge and the history, you know, I've done on the culture and the game I've gotten from, you know, those before me and the respect I have for them. I want to hold myself high on that same pedestal 10, 15 years from now. The state of just being a black man, I've been called, you know, many things. I am a king, you know, no matter what you call me.
What it is, ho, what's up?
F the big three. Because sometimes you just gotta creep in and snatch the spot for yourself. Being a team player isn't for the people who want to win. Kendrick, J. Cole, and Drake are now the new veterans of hip-hop. So we started looking at them with high regard because realistically, they are keeping things alive. We gave them the GOAT status because it's well deserved. Kendrick, on the other hand, saw a crown that wasn't deserved. He saw someone that was able to emulate, cosplay, pave the way, while also making decisions behind the scenes. We can never deny Drake's catalog, but if you want to have a real conversation, there are a lot of underlying factors that help Drake be the GOAT he is. That, tagged along with shady industry politics, Kendrick wanted smoke with someone he didn't really like that much, and 2, he was considered number 1. Cole dipped out, and now that things have settled, it's very clear why J. Cole bowed out. He saw things were gonna get personal and was just like, I don't want no smoke. He was disqualified, but hey, he's still rich and his secrets are well kept, so we'll just shoo him to the side. Either way, Kendrick showed his hand and single-handedly secured his spot in the respect in hip-hop. No Kendrick disrespect will be tolerated. He took the time to play chess, not checkers, with his career, and his plays are falling in line. Now that we have this monumental moment in Kendrick's career, I'm here to remind people that there's a reason why Kendrick was respected way before this and why we have to be aware of who we're throwing crowns to all willy-nilly. Gatekeeping is necessary, and Kendrick is necessary in reinforcing soul and politics and what makes hip-hop a black genre. Not on any Hotep shit, but it's a step in the right direction on not reinforcing negative ideologies and bringing light to the hush-hush creepy Hollywood antics that run so prevalent in the industry. Even though it was a diss, it marked a moment that everything in the dark must come to light, and the glass is becoming crystal clear.
What the fuck the big three? Nigga, it's just big me, nigga, bum!
This is a longevity video on Kendrick Lamar, reshaping the culture. Authenticity and patience is all it takes. Kendrick grew up in Compton, which is notoriously known for gang violence and poverty, but most importantly, its inception of rap groups like NWA and their history with the civil rights movement. Growing up in places like this, it is very difficult to make a living caring for a family. With his parents working at fast food chains, it just wasn't enough to survive. Eventually, his father decided to take the route of the streets and become more affiliated to make ends meet. Being one of many situations where you can't solely blame the person, but the environment. Kendrick, taking note of that, being a quiet observer, he was very observant of his predicament and understood from a young age the things happening around him. One of the many scenarios where he recalls the Rodney King riots, the infamous 92 riots, which began after the acquittals of 4 police officers who assaulted Rodney King. These riots lasted 6 days. This moment in history will never be forgotten for the ones who lived through the events. It took over the world as national news and became one of the worst civil disruptions in history. As a child, he recalls going to the swap meet at 9 years old and seeing Tupac shoot a music video there. A memory he would never forget as he watched a man he looked up to, understanding the impact of Tupac's lyrics without understanding its true meaning. When Tupac died a few months later, Kendrick knew the music will live forever along with its impact, not knowing he was going to be one of the people continuing that impact. Understanding Kendrick Lamar is to understand poetry. When Tupac died, he began listening to DMX, who was a great rapper and poet who was able to lyrically lay his thoughts in a poetic manner. A man who battled demons that he fought until his passing. DMX's album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, was an inspiring album that was one of the many reasons why Kendrick wanted to dabble in music. The complexity of that album conveyed an internal struggle waged between a man and his demons, a man searching for one light in an all-consuming darkness. A route Kendrick would take with his albums. What really made Kendrick understand his talent was his 7th grade teacher who began integrating poetry into the curriculum. One day, he didn't do the assignment and rushed to finish it 10 minutes before class. When he got the assignment back, he got an A, while everybody else around him got D's and C's. He made a mental note on how that made him feel, but also that he was able to succeed so easily without putting forth much effort. Literature and poetry is a sign of brilliance. Regardless of what the media wants to portray about hip-hop and how violent it is, it's art, being able to use words and conforming them to have different meanings, sound, and rhythm.
And that's obviously important to you, that no word is wasted.
Definitely. I just love words. I just love how to bend them. I love how to break them. I love how to twist them, turn them, make them in couplets.
Eminem has said this to me. Have you had this conversation with him? Have you guys bonded over this? Because he said this to me. He's like, that same thing. You know, I like to take words and I like to bend them to my will and make things things that shouldn't rhyme.
Yeah, you can manipulate it. You know, you can manipulate it. And that shows the true craft and your swordsmanship. You know, a lot of the guys that actually dig into taking things that don't even necessarily rhyme, that gets them excited to know you figured out how to make that rhyme, you know, and how to take this couplet and make it a double entendre at the end. It's all acrobatics, you know. It's all acrobatics, and that excites me. When I hear other people do it, it gives me a drive. And
From a young age, Kendrick battled stuttering problems, but it was something that his parents knew he would overcome because of how smart he was. His parents named him Man Man because of how mature he was from a young age. Growing up in Compton, it was full of violence and trauma before he knew the meaning behind what trauma was. His first ever sighting of a murder was at the age of 5, a moment that admittedly scarred him from a young age.
Do I have this right? You saw your first murder when you were 5 years old?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
It was outside my apartment unit. A guy was out there serving his narcotics and somebody rolled up and with a shotgun blew his chest out. We're kids playing in this apartment unit, you know, riding our bikes or whatnot, so immediately it done something to me right then and there to let me know that this is not only something that, you know, I'm looking at, but it's something that maybe I have to get used to. You dig what I'm saying?
The violence and trauma that riddles impoverished neighborhoods is abnormal, but the media coverage of this life is something so dark that it's actually become glamorized as something normal. Something that just follows these areas or people around. Even if the words spoken in raps demonstrate the everyday feelings of actual trauma, it again becomes glamorized and normalized. In order to trick the brain into thinking that there are no other options, that this life, no matter how dark it is your reality. Kendrick, unlike his peers, had a father that understood that his son was better than the path he was going on at a young age.
How close were you to going down a really bad path as a teenager?
How close? I was on the edge, fast, in a hurry. You grow up inside these neighborhoods and these communities, and you have friends that you love, friends that you grew up with since elementary, and you have their trust and you have their loyalty. So it brings influence. So no matter how much of a leader I thought I was always under the influence, period. Most of the times when they're involved in these acts of destruction, I was right there.
Kendrick stated how much of an influence his father was to his life, despite his dad also being involved in street activities. He said, "He had a big role, I think, one of the biggest influences in my life, just off the fact of growing up in Compton and having all these peers around me with no fathers. And even seeing my homies, the way they grew up and the route they went in, but I couldn't do nothing to stop it. You know, as a kid, the biggest influence on you is your pops. Not only that, but your pops being an active pops. I grew up around all types of BS. My whole family is Crips and Pyros. You know what I'm saying? I always had that right there. But out of respect for my pops, I never jumped into the gang life that was around me, just out of respect that I have for him. I still got into my ignorant shit and did my rebellious stuff. That almost effed my life over, but he was always right there to yank me back into a reality check. He ain't the most perfect dude in the world. He's been through a whole lot of stuff. He just didn't want me to follow the same steps he went through, so it was a big influence on my thoughts and my music, having him in my life." The impact of a proper father figure becomes a make or break situation. Kendrick's life could have really been different and his talent could have went with him. In 2006, Kendrick signed an artist development deal with Def Jam, but he was ultimately let go from Def Jam after an encounter with his then president-in-chief, Jay-Z, which he later described as one of those situations where he just wasn't ready. He released a series of mixtapes and collaborated with plenty of artists like J-Rock and Schoolboy Q. He was making enough noise to get co-signed by Lil Wayne, who was the biggest artist out because of his album The Carter 3. But 2011 would be Kendrick's breakout year as he featured on the XXL freshman list and he dropped his debut album, Section 80. The album had the style of conscious rap and alternative hip-hop, the same sound we would appreciate Kendrick for today. His singles were High Power and ADHD.
High tolerance when your age don't exist, like whoa, whoa, whoa. Just call it shit high power. Nigga, nothing less than high power.
Forbes considers it to be the Genesis album for Kendrick, successfully balancing social commentary with mass appeal. The album peaked at 113 on the Billboard and sold 5,000 copies its first week. Early on, he was dubbed the new king of the West Coast by Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and The Game during a performance in West LA.
I'ma say this and I'ma mean this. Nigga, you got the torch, nigga, you better run with that.
A cosign that would show to have true meaning. Same year, he opened up for Drake for his Club Paradise tour and was in talks with J. Cole to release a joint album that never came into fruition. The next year would be an amazing year for Kendrick as he dropped his album Good Kid, Mad City, which opened so many doors for him as an artist in terms of recognition and gaining a new fan base. Kendrick being able to creatively depict a story while also acknowledging the negative effects of the scenario is the type of music that resonated with a lot of his fans who dealt with the same situation. You hear it in his song The Art of Peer Pressure. Either way, in terms of hitting Billboard, Kendrick was still able to do that without letting go of the core of his infectious beat and message. His songs Money Trees, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Backstreet Freestyle, Poetic Justice, and my all-time favorite, Swimming Pools.
Just to say, money trees is the perfect place for shade, and that's just how I feel. I pray my dick get big as the Eiffel Tower, so I can fuck the world for 72. I was sharing what today is feeling. Bitch don't kill my vibe. Bitch don't kill my vibe. Bitch in a swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in it. Pool full of liquor, then you dive.
The entire album was well received and highly favorable, debuting at number 2 on the Billboard, a significant jump from a year prior. The album was such a monumental project that it is the only hip-hop album to spend 10 years on the Billboard 200 chart. Soon after, he donated $50,000 to Sentinel's music department and much more for the various sports and community programs. His contributions to the music department made it possible for the school to buy new instruments and establish both string and jazz ensembles. LA Weekly named it one of the top music programs in America. What makes this contribution so amazing is that Compton has a very low graduation rate. Less than 10% of Compton's residents have a college degree. According to the director of the school, 95% of the students in the music program went on to 4-year colleges on full or partial scholarships. Someone as brilliant as Kendrick understands the value of music because that's the way he has been able to express his feelings. Coming from Compton, there's a lot of kids who would have a different ending if they had these programs. These hobbies keep kids from prioritizing their surroundings. The Senator of California took notice of this and honored Kendrick Lamar for his donations, bestowing upon Kendrick a Generational Icon Award. Even though this was a huge year for Kendrick, he was still plagued with depression because he lost 3 of his friends that year.
It's real, man. 3 of my homeboys that summertime, was murdered. You know, close ones too, not just somebody that I hear about. These people I grow up with. So it all psychologically it messes your brain up because you live in this life, you know what I'm saying? But you still have to face realities of this. I got to get back off that tour bus and go to these funerals.
Soon after, Kendrick got baptized for the 2nd time. He did it while on tour with Kanye. Even though his team told him not to, he still did it anyways. He was doing a lot of things that he felt was right, including calling out rappers in his famous controversies.
But this is hip-hop and them niggas should know what time it is. There goes Benjamin Cole, Big Crit Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills, A$AP Rocky, Drake, Big Sean, J Electron, Tyler McMillan. I got love for you all, but I'm trying to murder you niggas. Trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you niggas.
You know, like that verse was a moment to talk about. Are you listening to it now at this point in time? Okay. And then it was real cool for like, you know, a couple weeks. But like if I asked you, for example, like how does that verse start? That verse had no malice behind it because I saw him 5 days later at the VMAs and it was all love. So it's like he didn't come on there on some wild like, yeah, I'm in New York, fuck everybody, don't look at me. Like I'm the king. So it was one of those things. It's like I almost wish he had come in there on that shit because I kind of lost like a little respect for the sentiment of the verse. If it's really fuck everybody, then it needs to be fuck everybody. It just can't be halfway for the sake of the people.
I don't know why they been lying, but your shit is not that inspiring. Fuck any nigga that's talking that shit just to get a reaction. I am the kid with the motor mouth, I am the one you should worry about. I don't know who you're referring to, who is this nigga you heard about? Someone just talking that bullshit, man, someone just gave you the run around.
And nothing been the same since they dropped control and tucked the sense of the rapper back in his pajama clothes. Ha ha, jokes on you, high five. I'm bulletproof, your shots will never penetrate.
Most people would look at this verse as friendly competition. He mentioned the late veteran rappers who inspired the culture, and him being in the new generation of rappers, he was calling them out. Not out of disrespect, but out of friendly competition. Also calling himself the king of New York. But some rappers didn't take Kendrick's verse lightly.
It wasn't real to me. It's like, I saw him after that, and it was just like, love. So it's like, was that real or was that just like for the people? You know what I mean?
I think it's a sparring kind of sport.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, you know, then let it be real then, you know, I mean, because those were harsh words, right? So it's like, you can't just say that and then see me and be like, yeah, man, what's up? Pretending like nothing ever happened. Like,
It was also during a time when things were becoming a bit lukewarm, so Kendrick was really just igniting a new flame of what hip-hop is about. It's a competitive competition and also very good for business. In 2013, he did win a few BET Awards. In 2014, he earned 7 Grammy nominations, but didn't win a Grammy, which a lot of people were outraged about considering Good Kid, Mad City was a critically acclaimed album, and musically it resonated with so many people. That album was huge. It was truly the album of the year. The Grammy is notorious for snubbing black artists. There's a few instances where white artists dedicate their award to the person that lost. It's merely out of acknowledgement, impact, and respect for artistry. Adele did it with Beyonce in 2016 for her Lemonade project for Album of the Year. Before Beyonce, it was Kendrick. Mac Miller wrote an Instagram post and sent Kendrick a text message that his album was amazing, giving him the accolades and telling him he deserved the award. Kendrick's next project, To Pimp a Butterfly, was again another critically acclaimed album, debuting at #1 and breaking Spotify streaming records. What makes Kendrick's music really special is that he incorporates a lot of G-funk sounds. He mixes jazz, funk, and other tones in a creative way as it was in the 80s and 90s, but he still has that modern essence. These soulful sounds can be geared towards the old and new generation. You hear it in his single King Kunta, where he sampled James Brown and We Want the Funk.
Bitch, where you and I was walking. Now I run the game, got the whole world talking. King Kunta, everybody wanna cut the legs.
And his song Alright was very popular. It became an anthem during the Black Panther rallies. Following the police killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and countless other black people in this country, it single-handedly became a protest anthem, a symbol of hope. It was played during the Million Man March for racial equality, Trump protest rallies, and countless Black Lives Matter events across the country. It's honestly one of those songs that evokes power and unity. It completely expresses the feelings minorities felt during that period while also still being an uplifting song.
Instagram, tell them put this on CNN. Every sign up, every sign up.
Might blow, but we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright.
Black of the Berry was another hard-hitting song. It explores the hardships and the struggles that come with being an African American by exploring the imposed stereotypes of blackness, aesthetically and socially. He said an interesting line that had some of his fans questioning him. He said, "So why do I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street? When gangbanging make me kill a nigga blacker than me?" The next single was I and You, which touched on self-love, empowerment, and depression.
Let's talk about You. If you didn't know by now, this song is about depression, but it also serves as a direct contrast to the song I. While I talks about words of self-empowerment, You talks about words of self-detriment. You talks about the amount of self-doubt you have when you're in a depressive state. So when he says loving you is complicated, he's actually talking about himself. But what's really important about the song is the beat switch. In the first part of the song, he talks with a lot of I's. This insinuates this is inner thoughts. When the beat switches, all of a sudden it goes to use. This third person switch represents his demons and his drunkenness. So the yous aren't necessarily coming from Kendrick, but another otherworldly being. Y'all know who I'm talking about, but we don't speak that name around here. That being even goes as far to tell Kendrick that he had failed. Kendrick ultimately discusses his contemplation of suicide. Kendrick then comes to a bleak conclusion that depression doesn't stop for anybody, not even somebody as famous as him.
What makes Kendrick a favorable artist is his incorporation of funk and how it makes people feel.
That soulful feeling you was talking about early on, mixed with, I want to say, brash lyrics. You know, you put a nice groove on, and you know, you kick something that's real to you. You kick something that's real to, you know, the people around you. That's that G-funk feel. It just had to feel right, you know.
He earned his first #1 single with his collab with Taylor Swift on Bad Blood. To Pimp a Butterfly allowed Kendrick to be on track for surpassing Michael Jackson's record for most nominations. But he said it's not something that he would accept without putting the work in. A lot of celebrities are strung on beating veteran industry records. By pumping out quantity instead of quality, he respects the people who came before him and understands the creative levels that it took to invoke an audience.
And then I did a little research, and Michael Jackson holds the record with 12 nominations.
Yeah.
You almost had the same amount of nominations as Michael Jackson for Thriller.
The legend. I wouldn't want to go past that though.
No.
No.
But what if you had 13?
No. I take back. I can't fathom being as great as Michael without putting out the work. So 11 is perfect. You know, he's the legendary. I'm glad it's at 12.
What happens?
The album won him multiple BET and Grammy Awards, including Best Rap Album of the Year. Rightfully so. He released his first compilation album in 2016, entitled Unmastered. It contained 8 untitled, dated, unfinished tracks that were intended to be included on To Pimp a Butterfly, becoming his second #1 album. And he collaborated with Beyonce on Freedom from her best album, Lemonade. He performed at the Grammys, displaying a thought-invoking performance that had the cultural nuance that was powerful to the minority viewers watching, while also giving a new visual interpretation to the non-minority audience. Honestly, I'm surprised this performance was even greenlit. He touched on systematic racism while also bringing heritage from Africa with the African dances and the art. To Pimp a Butterfly was actually inspired by his trip to Africa that he took in 2014. Being around people who have less but were still finding their happiness in their own ways. It awakens you to be more grateful and humble about what African countries go through and how they still keep the essence of who they are. He told Complex that after the trip he felt like he belonged to Africa and spoke of how beautiful the continent was. For those who don't know, Nelson Mandela is known for his dedicated efforts at dismantling decades of white supremacist apartheid rules and helping put his country on a path towards healing, justice, and reconciliation. Spending almost 2 decades in prison for opposing South Africa apartheid laws, he helped negotiate with State President F.W. de Klerk the end of apartheid in South Africa. This making Nelson a very important piece of civil rights in Africa. Kendrick taking the time to advise his fans to pay respect by researching a small piece of Nelson Mandela's life. This trip brought him a huge inspiration to the development of Pimp a Butterfly, creating music that will be impactful for generations to come like the people before him.
In that aspect where I'm not only thinking about right now, this record has to live and teach. The same way Ty lived, the same way Jay, the same way Common, the same way Ice Cube taught us back in '91, and I went back 15 years later, and I've learned from it. This album has to teach, not only in these times, but for the future, you know? To understand our history, what we was going through in 2010, 2012, 2014, 15, and we can go back and you can apply that knowledge with whatever's going on in the future. That right there is going to help the next individual, the next Kendrick Lamar, the next kid on the corner to make whatever situation they're in a better situation, not only for themselves, but for those around them. You know, so the success of that record didn't come from the accolades and the awards. For me, it came from people going out there and singing all right in the middle of these streets and you know, taking pride and dignity into where they come from and where they want to go, you know, and expressing themselves. A lot of people don't have voices out here, so to see them actually express themselves through song, you know, through lyrics that I wrote, that's confirmation for me. You know, that's confirmation for me that the passion and the insight, the thoughts that I put into these records, you know, is far beyond me. And the Pimp a Butterfly, that gave me this fire, man, a different type of fire to know that what I do is not for Kendrick Lamar, man. Like, period. And that record did that for me. It let me know that, you know, there's people out there that go through real things that want to hear this.
In 2017, he released his most commercially successful album, Damn. He had the singles Humble, DNA, Loyalty, and Love.
I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. Cocaine quarter piece, got war and peace. Loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Tenfold, no switch. Bitch, be humble. Hold up, bitch. Sit down. Hold up, be humble. Hold up, bitch. I wanna be with you. Me, just love me. If I didn't ride blade on curve, would you still?
This album having more R&B with some pop elements. It doesn't push new boundaries like his previous albums, but it did a good job of commercializing his music while remaining grounded in his message. Kendrick becoming the first ever rapper to receive a Pulitzer Prize for music. Being described as a rare artist who has achieved critical and commercial success while earning the respect and support of those who inspired him. In 2018, it became the first album by a rapper to have every song featured earn a gold certification. Kendrick also contributed to Marvel's Black Panther album, having singles like All of the Stars and Big Shot. For each album, Kendrick takes inspiration from his personal life and dives into that direction. Kendrick went on a 5-year hiatus before he dropped Mr. Morale in 2022. It's been said after each album that Kendrick immediately gets to work on the next project. Kendrick taking a 5-year gap, it's not really known what was going on in his downtime, but we do know is that he plans accordingly. Kendrick has been dropping the Heart singles for years. It's a promotional single before the actual single. In The Heart Part 5, Kendrick paints a vivid yet bleak picture of the negative effects apathy and the pursuit of clout have had on society. For Mr. Morale, he dove into his manhood, pushing self-help and therapy along with bringing up a lot of trauma he's personally gone through and dealt with or seen. The I'm Not Your Savior message is great to fans as well, telling us to seek peace of mind and end generational trauma, and pushing the awareness of men's mental health. This album isn't his most successful, but in terms of longevity, it hits for fans that resonate with the message. He had the singles N95, Silent Hill, and Die Hard.
Take off the gossip, take off the new logic that if I'm rich, I'm real. Take off the Chanel, take off the Doja, take off
These niggas off me like pushing the snakes, I'm pushing the fakes, I'm pushing them all on me like.
Kendrick's next album will be his first independent release. Nearly a year before he released the album, Kendrick announced that he was leaving Top Dawg Entertainment and revealed his plans to focus on his own imprint, PG Lang, the company which was established in 2020 along with his business partner Dave Free. Drake and Kendrick's beef have been bubbling for years. They have always thrown subs at each other in their music. A lot of people have been having issues with Drake behind the scenes, 1 because of his shadiness and 2 because of industry politics. Issues that artists have when it comes to Drake and his connection to Lucian Grange, who Kanye called Drake's baby daddy.
Baby daddy is like Drake has a rich baby daddy named Lucian and Universal.
Wow.
He's like, you know, like, man, my daddy got it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, my daddy controlled the spins. My daddy got the DSPs. My daddy. Drake has a rich baby daddy named Lucian. So coming together finally, because it's not just about the elimination of Drake. You know, it's like, like we're going to tear the head off whoever they got that they thought was in control of all this shit. Like, look at this. It's like they running the numbers. They running on radio. They got the smash. And then, you know, it's like now they not playing Lil Wayne no more because he ain't, you know, he's not directly connected with Lucian. Then they go and like buy the Cash Money shit out. Then they like pick and choose who they want. Oh, we're gonna have Migos 1 week, and then we're gonna have Future this, then we have 2 Chainz this, that, and they always pick somebody. Oh, now we're gonna have 21 Savage. You know what I'm saying? It's like they always pick somebody from Atlanta.
Drake has signed an alleged $400 million contract with UMG, the biggest deal in history. There's a reason why Drake has been dropping back-to-back and going on tour more frequently. Either way, Kendrick is now independent and owns his masters and rallies for other artists to follow suit. I think he also noticed the industry politics happening around him that involved Drake and waited for a moment where it was convenient to come at him as hard as he did. Drake took the bait and Kendrick followed suit because he knew rapping-wise it was an easy win. Even our forever president Barack knew this.
So we had Drake versus Meek Mill. A lot of people were tweeting that to me. We kind of know the outcome of that. But if Drake and Kendrick Lamar got in a rap battle, who do you think would win?
You got to go with Kendrick. I'm just saying. I think Drake is an outstanding entertainer, but Kendrick, his lyrics, his last album was outstanding.
Excellent, all right.
Best album, I think, last year.
Thanks so much for your time.
I do also think that Kendrick just didn't like Drake. Kendrick is more strategic than he plays off, and becoming independent, he's not just knocking someone off their pedestal, but when he drops his first independent album, it will do guarantee numbers. Drake having all these rappers like A$AP Rocky, Rick Ross, Future, The Weeknd, to Kanye coming at him, the public perception puts Drake back at where he fought so hard to leave behind, as the corner dude from Degrassi. Because everything was fun at first, and it looked like a Drake takedown, the Avengers against Thanos, until the lyrics began to dismantle Drake's integrity as a rapper. And the public is reminded where he came from and his character as a person. This all started 10 years ago with Control, and who was mad about it? Drake. What was friendly competition as a rapper turned into something else. Now, as the years went on and Drake began associating himself with people in order to look like what he raps about, we've seen him want to prove himself to the culture without actually helping the culture. Versus Kendrick, who actually lived the life he raps about. He's seen it growing up, and he uses his voice to ignite change or awareness. Hotep or no Hotep, who actually values the culture that he's in. Versus Drake, who is cosplayed and became cocky. Kendrick going at Drake was for business and because he can. The winner out of this battle is whoever has the best public perception, and Kendrick won that. This is also karma for the bad juju that Drake has been unleashing when it comes to messing with other people's girls. Now, the Control verse is what started it between Kendrick and Drake, but as the years went on, other rappers started catching on to Drake and his ways. In 2014, Tyga called Drake fake. Drake responded by liking Blac Chyna's pictures and posting a picture of Kylie Jenner at his studio on Instagram. In 2015, Drake and Meek started beefing because Meek thought Drake was dissing him in his Rico verse. Come to find out that Drake had a ghostwriter, Quentin Miller. Meek Mill got this information from DJ Drama, who had issues with Drake at the moment because he found out that Drake was smashing his ex-wife, Summer P. Walker. Because of loyalty and label politics, Drake and Pusha have always threw shots at each other, but it wasn't until the Duppy freestyle where Drake questioned Pusha T's street cred and mentioned Pusha's wife that things escalated to Pusha dropping the bomb on Drake's child and his fake persona. Drake and Kanye have always had a love-hate relationship with each other. There is speculation that Drake messed with Kim Kardashian, but Kanye knows Drake's pattern. Not only will he diss you, but he'll disrespect your household by getting close to the women in these guys' lives.
At the end of the day, this man has sold more records than anybody. And part of his technique, Drake don't do a diss like an outright diss song where it's a headshot. He's gonna set it up like war. He gonna do stuff like live 5 blocks down the street from you, DM every single girl in your family, every single girl around your family.
Rick Ross unfollowed Drake, so Drake responded by inviting Ross's ex-girlfriend, Christina Mackey, to his concert. And the finale, which is Drake mentioning Kendrick's wife in the diss. There's a lot of instances of this happening, so it's definitely a moral thing accompanied by industry mess. Kendrick, who I just dissected parts of his life, origins, and music, has embodied everything in what it means to be a part of the culture. A lot of the good and bad and ugly, but he is the culture. Although all these rappers have come for Drake, Kendrick has the background, the bars, and the public perception to be the person that goes at Drake and comes on top as the winner. As someone that a lot of black people in some way can genuinely relate to, Drake's diss was no match for anything Kendrick released against him, and the reception of Kendrick's diss has become a moment dissecting Drake's loss.
Well, he misreads the text. He reads the text. This is why it's very important. Critical thinking skills are very important. This is why it's the most important thing you can learn in college is critical thinking, reading comprehension. I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm just trying to be honest. I'm trying to be clear. It is the fact that one could listen to or read the lyrics to the song Mother, I Sober and conclude that Kendrick himself was sexually abused is completely against the sense of the text. The text itself is about generational trauma and about the fact that his mother assumed that he must have been abused because of the abuse that she suffered herself. It's about the presumption of it, not about the fact of it. He wasn't touched, but he was still affected because he was constantly chasing manhood. But Whitney's gone. By the time you hear this song, she did all she could. Drake, you sent us back to this song, and in this song, Kendrick Lamar told us that Whitney left him. And now we're supposed to sit there and listen to your track where you say, how come you haven't talked to Whitney in 6 months? It's like we know why. We know why. Because their relationship couldn't survive the results of the trauma that he suffered. And it wasn't SA, it was other stuff. And it's such a beautiful song, and it's so powerful, and it's so meaningful. And it's something that Kendrick can bring us. And it's a reminder, Drake, that you can't. You just lack the self-awareness. And dude, that's all right.
There's been a lot of allegations towards Kendrick and Drake that people have been looking into, but Drake's is actually backed up by his odd behavior in the industry that is coming out. Drake signed a lifetime deal contract that the record label is now looking like, okay, how are we gonna pivot away from this bad press and do damage control because we still have to make our money. They Not Like Us was not only poking fun at Drake, but universally uniting people and bringing back a sense of unity when he says, they not like us. This is our culture.
Nella nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tito. What's up with these phony ass niggas trying to see Compton? The industry can hate me, fuck them all. To the cross, he walk around like Tito. What's up with these phony ass niggas trying to see Compton? Marlon mama, how many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this. I like how you coming. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
This shows Kendrick's longevity in the purest form. Someone who literally came from Compton, who went through the trials and tribulations inside and outside his home, battling his own demons, while using his music to send a message, denouncing, not promoting, while also maintaining a soulful sound that was created in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. He's keeping melodic tradition alive. Kendrick Lamar is literally the culture, and shout out to authenticity. Well, that concludes today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about Kendrick's longevity below. Toodles!